Hello, friends. My name is Raul Trujillo for Alabama TV, and today we're going to have a very good interview with Paul Irving. He's the chief of Leeds Police Department, and also my friend, the attorney Michael Shabani. Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is very important for us to have you here. Thank you so much. Attorney Shabani, thank you very much for joining the interview. Thank you so much. Chief, thank you again. It is very important for our community to have you here because there are a lot of questions outside, and it's great to have the answer from you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's talk about something what is we call normal. For example, we're going to divide this interview into two things. First, what is the traffic law, and the safety. The safety is for your people, for your community, but it has to include everyone in your city. And the traffic is very simple, but it may be something different for people who doesn't have a legal status here. Okay,
sir.
All right, let's talk about. Please tell me first a little about you. Introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Well, my name is Paul Irwin. I actually grew up in the city of Leeds. My mother still lives there. I actually joined the United States Marine Corps, and I served the Marine Corps for 4 years. And I joined the Birmingham Police Department after that. And I've been in law enforcement for 32 years. I retired from the city of Birmingham. I've been the chief of the Pell City Police Department for 5 years, and I've been here in Leeds almost 4.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, let's talk first what is called normal normal situation in traffic. How can you say what is different within a traffic stop and a criminal stop when you pull over a driver?
Yes, sir. I think that the best thing, the best information that I can give the public is that you need to try to get a driver's license. If you don't have a driver's license, then I think you should study the manual and be familiar with the rules of the road in the state of Alabama. Number one, for your safety and for the safety of the people that are on the streets. And I think that that's very important, even if you don't have a driver's license, that you take the time to educate yourself in operating a motor vehicle. Because sometimes we have people that they're driving, they may get here and they don't learn how to drive, and they're trying to drive because they want to be employed and they need to get somewhere, they need to get their kids to and from school. So I think it's very important that they take the time, and I know it's available in English and Spanish. So I think it's very important that they learn those rules. The things that our officers look for as far as making traffic stops, whenever they make a traffic stop and interact with someone, would be not coming to a stop at a stop sign, turning right on red, which is something that you mentioned, that you have to come to a complete stop before you make a right-hand turn. Speeding, making sure you're familiar with the speed limits when you're there. Making sure one thing that is very important is when you see a school bus that you're stopping for that. We do have a lot of unlicensed drivers that really don't understand that. But what our school buses have cameras on there, and sometimes we send tickets to people. They don't, they're loaning their vehicle to someone, or they purchase the vehicle for someone else to drive, and they get the citation in the mail. So it's very important, and for the safety of the community, that you make sure that you're familiar with the school buses and that you have to stop when you see them coming because the lights are flashing, letting you know that the sign is about to come out.
Perfect. In which cases could you detain the driver?
Well, the things that our officer would do is when they make a traffic stop, whenever the lights are turned on, then that's a traffic stop. The officer has to make that traffic stop for two reasons. The first reason is they could stop that car if it had been involved in a crime and they have reasonable suspicion to believe that that vehicle was involved in a crime that they were responding to. Which, for instance, let's say they received a call that there was a domestic violence or a fight or a robbery, and that the person was driving a green Impala. then they see one stop. So they stop that because they have reasonable suspicion to believe that that was the suspect vehicle. The other reason would be just a traffic stop, and the person is detained while the officer is writing a citation, interviewing them, and under the current Alabama law that just went in effect, then if the person doesn't have a driver's license, they have no ID, and the officer determines by reasonable suspicion that the person may be an illegal immigrant, then they can check that. If you are someone that is here legally, then you would have something to show a green card or work visa or something such as that to let someone know that you're here legally. And that's usually the only interactions that we have that we're looking for, that the officers have a duty to do it. One of the exceptions to the new law is if it's someone that we're working with, that let's say they're a victim of a crime and they call us, or they're working with us to spoil other crimes, because there's a lot of crime in the community where Hispanic people are being victimized by Hispanics, and where Hispanic people are being victimized by others because they're taking advantage of them because they don't think that they will work with law enforcement. So it's very important for people to know that we're here to, number one, local law enforcement in this country is here to protect the communities in which they serve, regardless of anything, and to remove the people that are victimizing them. That is our number one thing. As a police chief, my number one thing is to make sure that my officers go home safe every day, that they work with the community well, and that we build a relationship with the community. And so that's the main thing that someone would have to look for, is if you're making sure you're driving correctly, regardless of what your immigration status is, then you may not even get stopped if you learn how to drive properly.
Yeah, actually, Mr. Shabani, we were talking before, remember, about the safety. What this new policies could hurt the safety of community. What do you think about it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me just ask the chief in response to his reasonable suspension. I mean, as you know, I'm an attorney, so I'm not trying to be too difficult or anything like that, but I do practice immigration law. I've done it for over 30 years with Shabani and Crumbly. And my concern is that a foreign national falls under the federal guidelines.
Yes, sir.
And our Constitution is pretty much clear that if you are a foreign national and happen to be found in the United States, you are under the federal guidelines, not the state. So a police officer per se should not be able to really inquire into the person's identity as far as what country you're from, do you have a passport, do you have a green card, or anything like that. They do obviously need to inquire about, do you have a driver license, because he's driving a license within the state of Alabama. That is a proper thing to do. Do you have insurance, for example? Yes. And what is your name? What is your identity? And they can run his name or whatever to see if he's wanted or there's a warrant for his arrest. But when it comes to arresting someone because of their status, if they are here illegally, what have you, I just don't feel comfortable that a police officer, a state police officer, would take someone into custody because of that.
Yes, sir.
Moreover,
And we will not.
right. But I mean, but some of the other jurisdictions, and you're aware, they will do that. Unfortunately, they will racial profiling, number one, and they will arrest individuals because of whatever they look. If they look not normal or they don't look like local or what have you. I mean, I myself had a situation whereby, whenever I went to court in some places, some jurisdictions in the counties, they would ask me, "Are you a lawyer?" Yes, I am a lawyer. Here's my ID. Show them all that stuff to just prove that who I am. what's wrong with me? I'm a lawyer. So those type of racial profiling, I think it needs to stop. I don't think that it has any place in our community, regardless of what county or what states that we're in. But unfortunately, we see those atrocities taking place in different jurisdictions over and over and over and over. Sometimes individual, I just had I'll give you an example. Just had a client who been here for 24 years, got kids, 5 of them, married, and he got pulled over because his trailer tag was expired, you know?
Sure.
And as a result of that, the officer basically arrested him. He went to jail, and then, as you know now, I think that this is the new trend. When they get into the jail, the jailer somehow they're connected with ICE, and the ICE officers, they see, that individual that's been arrested, and they came and picked him up
Yes, sir.
and deported him.
And that's very concerning to me because, I don't see a lot of racial profiling. I've heard about it, and I've heard concerns from people and people saying that it's racial profiling. The one thing I would say that all officers have to make a stop based on probable cause
Right.
that a crime is committed, okay, or reasonable suspicion, as I told you previously. I'm not familiar with the case of of that particular person. I know that we're not going to arrest someone, as you just mentioned, and nor do we have a responsibility to arrest someone for their immigration status. The only thing that we are required to do now by law, which was previously discretionary, is now the law says that when a law enforcement officer in the state of Alabama has reasonable suspicion to believe that the person is is here illegally, then they have
Would
to
a
notify
traffic violation
immigration.
would be a reasonable suspicion?
A traffic violation would be probable cause for an officer, one of our officers, to come in contact with them.
Right.
Like I mentioned to you previously with him, is when our officers come in contact with someone in the community,
Yes.
and it's not involving a crime, we're not going to be checking their immigration status.
But that's good to know.
I'm not
That's
going to
good to
go, and I want people to know that we're not going to be going to the school. We're not going to be going to places where they shop and interviewing them or talking to them and asking them about their immigration status.
Chief, is that a policy specifically for Leeds, or is it, to your knowledge, across the board throughout the state of Alabama?
Well, my particular, the thing that I've read in the law is an officer, whenever they have reasonable suspicion to make a stop.
Yes.
And for us, the only time we're going to use that reasonable suspicion, and I believe every other officer should, is when they've made a stop for reasonable suspicion of a crime being committed or probable cause that a crime is being committed.
I see.
And then at that time, then their immigration status should be checked. But as far as dealing with the citizens in our community, we're not going to go out and try to develop reasonable suspicion to say and stop someone or develop something where we're going to notify ICE that, hey, we need to remove this person. Now, if I had someone in our community that I knew was a criminal, was trafficking drugs,
Yes.
committed crime, then we're going to look for reasonable suspicion to have interaction with them, because we don't want those people in our community.
We don't either.
Regardless of what their race or nationality is.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I really
sir.
appreciate for explaining that. Go ahead.
Chief, I have another question regarding safety. Let's say the people who's listen to the interview right now, and they say, I don't have the documents, but I used to drive and across Moody, Leeds, and all the way right there. So if they hear that, if they are pulled over and they're gonna have to show you the legal status and they don't have it, what is going to happen in your city or with your department to say the people is going to try to leave the city because, like you just said, we're going to ask them if they have papers or not when they are pulled over for a traffic stop. So probably they are going to get scared or afraid. And what about the people who's doing business in your area, in Leeds, for example, Moody? they don't want to be there because of this. Don't you think this policies is hurting your city?
I think that these policies that the state have put in place, these laws that have went into effect recently, are going to make it where people that don't have legal status in the state of Alabama, they may leave Alabama and go somewhere else. But our duty as a law enforcement officer is when the state passes a law and we took an oath to enforce the law, that if the law is that we have, when we make a traffic stop and we determine reasonable suspicion that the person is here illegally, we have a duty under the law, because that's what has been voted in, to notify Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Another thing, because now we're talking about safety, and now the economy. Everybody has seen the most of the construction. We have all the cities, the business. Most of them are running by immigrants. So we can say that, for example, Mexican restaurant, or if you see a construction, the 90% of the people who's doing the construction are immigrants. What is going to happen? Because you have to fill those positions. If they leave, what is going to happen? Remember, I told you just an hour ago that illegal immigrants are paying almost $200 million here in Alabama. What happens if they leave?
That's a very good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is you know, it was a big concern of my mayor, because something that he saw on TV, and he was notified by construction workers that some of the employees didn't want to come to Leeds because they were worried about their immigration status. And I tried to reach out to whoever put that out, but we wasn't able to find out who exactly that was. But in the city of Leeds, we haven't went on a construction site and started interviewing people. We're not going to go and interrupt a business that's operating with a license unless there's other causes. You know, I'm not going to talk about a specific business, but let's say hypothetically, let's say we had a business that was operating, and I'll take one from another city, not mine specifically, because, you know, some of these cities are sanctuary cities, which as a law enforcement officer, you have an oath to enforce the law, but that's a different discussion. But let's say that there's a business that's a legitimate licensed business, but let's say we found out they were doing prostitution, or they were bringing in illegal immigrants and doing prostitution and human trafficking. Then I think we have a duty, once we find that out, to go to that business.
Yeah, and we support that.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the type of business that we're going to shut down. And, you know, seems like there's a lot of Mexican restaurants, and you talked about Leeds and Moody, and a lot of our officers eat there. I have relationships with the business owners. Some of the ladies that are there, we do Kids and Cops. We go to Mango's every year, which is across the street from Walmart. We go there, and the lady's very nice, and so every time I go in there, she's really, you know, we have a great relationship, because she knows what we're trying to do in the community and how we want to serve children in the community.
Yeah, basically the only thing that they're gonna be facing a big problem is when they are driving, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Driving would be the biggest thing, and because we want people that are victims of crime, and I'm going to look into the camera for this one. We want people that are victims of crime, regardless of who they are, to report that to us. We want people that are witnesses to violent crimes, to come forward to us and to trust us that we're not going to have them deported, because that's not that we want people to work with us. We want citizens in our community, if they know about human trafficking, they know about illegal drugs, they know about a business that's operating illegally, we want them to come forward to us, and we want to work with them. And that is an exception to the law, that they can work with us and deal with us, and we don't, and their immigration status does not apply.
So, Chief, if I may, would you encourage the immigrant community to reach out to your office in case if there is a domestic violence or a somewhat of a criminal matter that took place that someone witnessed, possibly? would you encourage the community to step up, come forward without hesitation that these individuals are going to be detained or possibly referred to ICE?
Yes, sir. I would like to really encourage the community to come forward on that. And you and I talked previously about people who are victims of crime. And the thing about it is if you're a victim of a crime of domestic violence or a rape or a sexual assault, it's very important that you come forward to us because there's so much evidence collection that can be done immediately.
Correct.
So if someone's doing that to someone in the community or has been doing that, we really want them to come forward. And the sooner the better. If you're a victim of a violent crime, sexual assault, domestic relations crime, we need you to come forward as soon as possible to provide us that information because there's an evidence collecting period that's going to expire. So we need you to come forward as soon as possible so that we can gather evidence and investigate that to protect you and prosecute the person that did that. And then, when we arrest someone who's doing something like that, let's say they're from another country, then hopefully we can work with ICE and have them removed. But I think the number one thing is that they're prosecuted for the crime first.
That's awesome. That's
Yes, sir.
wonderful. Would it be any type of encouragement or incentives that the police department possibly could offer to the community to come forward for testifying in a particular criminal matter or something that's the interest of the community?
Absolutely. And that's what I was saying, that if there's someone that's a witness of a crime, don't feel like that we're going to do anything to you in the city of Leeds if you come forward with information to help us solve or investigate crimes that are occurring in the community. Because our number one concern, and I think the number one concern of law enforcement throughout the United States, local law enforcement, the most important thing is that our officer safety and that our community safety.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're here for. We see a lot of violent crimes, a lot of people doing things now that are just horrific, that's on the news and media
Yes, sir.
all the time. And we just need to do everything we can to be there to protect our community.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
What is your turnaround, if you will, if, let's say, our office, we discussed this previously, let's say if our office reach out to your office with regards to a U visa that we discussed, which is U visa is generally for individuals who've been subject of a criminal violation within the four corners of the United States, they can come forward and they can apply, obviously through themselves or possibly through an immigration attorney to seek out a approval on a U visa from United States government. In order to do that, naturally, a certificate has to be signed by your department. Of course, depends on where the crime took place or what the scenario is, because under the statute, a judge, a district attorney, obviously the chief of police, or the detective in charge can sign that particular form. How long does it take for your office to investigate if we turn in a U visa application for certification at your office?
Okay. For my office in particular, since we are a small agency, something like that could take a week.
Okay,
Yes.
that's very fast.
Absolutely. If it's something that has just occurred, it may take a little longer.
Yeah.
But if it's something that has occurred since I've been there, because I work very closely with our investigators, because solving violent crime and removing people that are a menace to the community, because if we don't investigate a lot of misdemeanors.
I understand that.
So what we want to do is we want to take the ones that are doing things,
Serious.
bringing drugs into the community, like we talked about rape and
Right.
things like that sometimes goes unreported.
Right.
That's the number one crime, I think, for Hispanics is reporting robberies
Right.
and reporting sexual assaults.
Right.
And I believe, that's why we need to make sure that we're letting them know that if they're a victim of those, that they need to come forward as soon as possible. Because with all of the technology and everything that's available today, if we get a crime reported immediately, we're going to be able to really make waves, you know, with DNA, with video cameras, with there's so many different things in technology. Technology right now is the wave of the future, and I think what it's going to do is it's going to lower crime.
Right.
I think law enforcement has went through a very hard recruiting period, and um, since the pandemic era when everyone was protesting and everything. So now the recruiting's coming up better. But if it wasn't for the technology that has been coming out since like 2015 forward, we would really have a lot of crime that went unsolved.
I see.
But because of technology, we're able to solve crimes immediately.
Thank you so much. I
Yes, sir.
really appreciate that.
Chief, before we leave, I have another very common question. If an individual is victim just of intimidation or job abuse, for example, are you in a store and comes an American citizen say, you got to go away because you are illegal. They start yelling at you, intimidation, illegal, go back. That can they call the police? And the other one, what about job abuse? I hire you to promote on my house, and I know you don't have documents.
Yes.
And you know what? I'm not going to pay you because I know you don't have papers. So I'm not going to pay you because I know you are not going to call the police. In those cases, those are very common cases and very sad cases.
Yes.
Should they call you, the police, if they are suffering from intimidation or job abuse?
Or harassment? Yes, exactly. And it's unfortunate that happens. I think in Alabama, the one thing that we really got right is we've got people that care about people from a godly standpoint. I think that they're very godly. They love other people, but then you have some people that really they just want to complain about everything. And it's very personally to me, it's just very insulting for someone to attack a person verbally like that, regardless of who they are. And so I think that I would want to know who that person is that's harassing people in the community because they don't have no right. And the thing about it is and that's discrimination.
Right.
Absolutely. And I have people that I have grown up with and people that I know that I care about. And I have relationships with that I love that are Hispanic. And it really upsets me to know that any citizen would come up and harass someone about that, Same way with racial discrimination of Black people or Asian people. That's very insulting. And I wouldn't really appreciate that at all either.
So they can call you.
Yeah, absolutely.
In both cases?
Especially if they're being harassed in their neighborhood, then that's something that we need to look into because a person who's doing that, someone that's being verbally assaulting to them that maybe not have anything else to do but then harass people, we need to have knowledge of those people that are in our community.
Yes, because what I know is they call the police and the police come and they say, can I have your ID? And there comes the problem. I don't have a valid ID. So that's why I'm telling you, should they call you?
Yes, absolutely. They should call us. And we work really close with their school system, and there's a lot of Hispanic children there. That some of them are like grown people now because they look like they're grown because they're in the 11th or 12th grade. But I think that in our city, I really don't see that. It seems like our city is very accepting. I know because I grew up there, and it's always been that regardless of your race, we always work together. We have relationships with us. I have relationships with people that I graduated from, that I went to high school with, and some that I graduated with, or some that I knew. A lot of them passed because I'm getting older, and some of them are passing away, but some of them still live in the community, and we have a relationship. And they're African American, but I care about them, and I want them to do it just like the kids that are in our schools now. They have great relationships with Hispanics that are there. Sometimes there are children there that cannot even speak Spanish. I don't know what they speak, but they introduce them to me. The other students do when I go into the school and I'm talking to them, and they'll introduce the person to me, and they said no one can talk to them because And what a tragic thing for a child to go into a school system and can't communicate.
Right.
You know, whether they speak, and I think he may have spoke German or it could have been I can't think of the name of it, but anyway, but he couldn't communicate with anyone.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because he couldn't speak Spanish or he could speak English. And so what a tragic thing. I believe he was he was in middle school, but to be able to go into a school system as a child and not being able to communicate, because it's hard enough to communicate for us sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes people try to, label you by who you are. Some people may not know me as the police chief as someone that cares for them and wants to help them regardless of who they are. They may look at me as part of it's the only thing I care about is removing people from the community, and that's not what it is. All I want to do is protect our community.
Yeah, and it's good to know that everybody who's living here in USA, even in this time that are critical times, they still have the civil rights.
Yes,
That's good.
Yeah.
Mr. Shabani,
Sure. I think you asked the chief a legal question. That the question was, if you have, John and Jorge arguing about salary or a pay or something that Jorge has done and he hasn't got paid, should he call the police? I think, in my experience, police doesn't want to get involved in the civil disputes.
I think that is the wage and hour board has something to do with that.
Right. And probably that individual.
Excuse me, Mr. Shabani, but if in this particular case you're mentioning right now, it's not just because a civil case, it's because you are illegal. I know you are illegal. That's why that is my excuse to say I don't want to pay you because I know you are illegal. So I'm not going to pay you and do whatever you want.
We represent a lot of individuals in court in the civil matters and contract disputes and things like that, and won just about every one of them. My latest one was in Shelby County a couple of years ago. It was nearly $400,000 that this guy did framing for a big company from Tennessee, and they just refused to pay, outright refused to pay. So we made them pay. But the question is, does a foreign national who lives here in the United States, no matter where you're from, doesn't have to be Latino, you can be from Middle East or some other place. If you're working for someone and happen to be working without a work permit, would you happen to have a right to bring legal action against the person who hired you? And the answer is yes, you can.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because anytime you contract with someone to do a job,
Right. It's a contract.
It's a contract. And if you go out and do that job and they don't pay you everything that you're due and it was in the contract, I completely agree with you. And if someone came to us and reported that, I would be upset.
Right.
But I would tell them that they needed to reach out to an attorney.
Exactly. That would be the way to.
And our officers know that as well, because we have a lot of people that have civil disputes, and we tell them, it's a civil dispute, but if there's some way that we can loop it in as a criminal, we usually do, specifically in domestic violence, because domestic violence can go from one extreme to the other.
Correct.
And what we want to do, we talked about previously a homicide that we had last year in the city of Leeds with a Hispanic. And, if I think we did just about everything we could on that case, but if it would have been a husband and wife, then the cycle of violence, it goes from someone verbally assaulting you to the next thing you know, they're hitting you. And a lot of times, and I think, it goes from a lot of Hispanic communities, the wife maybe stay at home,
right?
And they don't have anything, that they need to know that there's resources, that we're going to provide them with all the resources that we can to get this person away from them that is assaulting them.
So you will protect that individual?
Absolutely.
There you go.
I will protect anyone in my community with my life.
Wonderful.
And I signed it, and I swore an oath to that.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, Chief, we're almost leaving. Thank you so much, Attorney Shabani, for joining the interview. Yeah. And before we leave, you want to send a message for the people who's looking the interview?
Yes, sir. If you have anything or any concerns or anything that you feel like you've been a victim in the community, specifically in the city of Leeds or most any local law enforcement. We're here to protect you. We're here to get your information, and we're here to prosecute crimes. And we're also here to build relationships with you so that you know that you can come out and speak with us, that you can interact with us in the community without any concern, except if you're stopped on a traffic stop. In the state of Alabama, there is a law now that you have to, that if we have someone that we have reasonable suspicion to believe that they're here illegally, we're supposed to contact them. But the thing that I want to let people know is if you know about crime and you know someone that's maybe here illegally that's committing dangerous crimes or spreading poison in the community, that you would feel free to contact us and give us that information. Because the one thing that we want to do is we want to stop people before they get addicted to drugs and start causing other crimes in our community. And I really wish that you feel free to call the Leeds Police Department, regardless of where it happened, and we can transfer that information to other agencies as well.
Chief Erwin, thank you very much for being
Thank you.
here.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Attorney Shabani, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
always.
Very nice to
Thank
meet
you so much.
Okay, thank you. That's it. This is Raul Trujillo for Alabama TV.